Hello there, Titanic Book Club, and I've never done one of these before, but hello from a rather cold and a bit dreary England, and happy Christmas Eve. So when I asked Jill, what should I do for this video, she said, well, you can more or less do what you like. So what I thought I would do, I was up in my attic earlier in the week getting Christmas stuff down, and I came across two boxes. And I thought, what's in there? And I looked in those, and what it was basically all my bits and bobs that I've collected over the years to do with Titanic and other ships. And I just thought I'd do a little whirlwind of some of the things that I just have collected as a sort of Christmas Eve hello to all you book fans on the Titanic there. So these are in no order at all. But the first and only survivor I met of the Titanic, of course, was Milvina Dean. And I had lots of things that she signed, loads of things, didn't she? She was always on the go. But when I first met her, this is one of the things she signed for me. And I've always loved this picture. Because it's actually the Titanic, and we all know that there's lots of Olympic, stand-ins. But I love the fact you can see Captain Smith looking over there. And in just a few days, that lifeboat was going to be in use. And who are these people here? Fascinating. I love that. Another lady that I met that was very interesting, who a lot of you will know, is Ellen Mary Walker. Lovely, lovely lady. Now, years and years ago, I bought this book, which I still love. And my book, Titanic Children, was a kind of homage to this one. The only difference was this one's a sort of narrative about the women and the children, but my one is just about the children and it's just their voices, whereas Judy Geller she did a sort of author's narrative for it. Anyway, so when I met Ellen Mary, she signed that for me. Look, God love her, down the bottom there she's. It's such a lovely picture, that one, isn't it? So children on the Titanic, I thought, well, maybe I'll dig up some of the children that I included. So she just comes into children, doesn't she? Dear old Edith Haseman there, and this is her biography, which I think was written by her son, and her daughter, I think, was involved in that one. And I've got her signature here, which I got years and years ago. In fact, I think I got that from a convention. I think I only ever went to 2 conventions. I didn't know about conventions until I was about 28. And I found this copy of my very first book, and this one is special, of course, because it's I think this is the signed one. Yeah, this is signed. I remember driving down to see Milvina, and she signed that for me. God love her. I wouldn't have never written a book if it hadn't been for this lady, Milvina Dean. That lovely picture. Don't know, but you can see it reflected there. But she was very feeling quite perky there because I bought her a new scarf, which she's wearing, and she had her new wig on. But other children, bits and pieces, that I collected, the Navratil boys, or at least one of them there, and Beatrice Sandstrom. Now, Beatrice Sandstrom was one of the my elusive interviewees that I couldn't get for the book. And some kind lady has, since the book's come out, given me a fabulous interview with Beatrice Sandstrom. So I'm looking forward to sharing that in a future edition. Eleanor Schumann, who I'm sure was very well known to lots of Americans there. She signed that. She seemed like a sweet lady. This is a lovely card, isn't it? There's another one, Beatrice Sandstrom there. Just a lovely image, isn't it? I love that. And I love the fact there's children in it, which is great, isn't it? I would have liked that to be sort of in the book, but all the photographs in the book were black and white. Moving on to other sort of Titanic connections. This lady, now Don Lynch and Ken Marshall were really good friends with Edwina Mackenzie, and there she is, Winnie Trout, I should say. Isn't that a great thing? I think I would have loved Winnie Trout. She seemed like a really genuine lady. Moving on, let's go back to Titanic. I'm one of those pedants that never says Titanic. I always say the Titanic, and it really irritates me when people say, just talk about Titanic. But anyway, there's Gloria Stewart, who played Old Rose, of course, in the movie. And that was when she was young. And quite, as she said, she was quite a hot number there. Nice old copy of Night to Remember. Again, I think this one is signed by, this one was signed by Melvina. Just love those 1950s artwork. It's great, isn't it? Oh, now this one, hang on, before I get to that one. And of course, the indomitable Eva Hart. I mean, where would we be in Britain without Eva Hart? She was the Titanic spokesperson for us here. And this is her biography there, signed by her. This is, I don't know if you can get this anymore. It's probably quite expensive, but yeah, loved Eva Hart. I would have loved to have met Eva Hart. Don Lynch always said that she was absolutely charming off the camera. As soon as the camera was rolling, she became quite imperious. And I had teachers like that when I was a kid. Couple more things. A whole bundle of letters here from Sid Sedunary. Sid Sedunari's father, also Sid, was on the Titanic. And Sid was born shortly after he died, and he was a lovely old gent. I used to pop down and see him. He lived near Reading, and he used to boast about the fact that Kate Winslet was a Reading girl as well. And lots of letters from him, which I'll have to read again at some point, because he was a lovely letter writer, very interested in the Titanic himself. This thing here, reproduction of the CQD from the Titanic to the SS Burma. We are sinking fast, passengers being put into boats, which Melvina signed for me. Poor old Melvina, she was always signing something, wasn't she? God love her. And I love that. It's very chilling, I find that. Just the brevity of those words. I've always found that a bit chilling. Now, I said in my first interview, where did it all start? Well, really it started for me with the movie Raise the Titanic, and those scenes where the guy is walking through, the old rooms, and which I think they totally missed an opportunity there, by the way, in that movie, to sort of exploit that a bit more. But anyway, and then years later, I managed to get hold of a copy of I already had the novel, but I got this copy. But what's exciting about this one is that it's signed. Now, I think this was done at a convention, probably an American one, by lots of the children that were on board. And I've got here George Tumar and Frank Axe, Edith Haseman, Eva Hart, Ruth Becker, Marjorie Robb, Michelle Navratil, and Bertram Dean. So that was a bit of a boon. And it's lovely that they signed a book that was made into a movie that really got me started. Now, actually finishing really here on two totally not Titanic things, but when I was doing my first book, Titanic Diaries, I was interviewing lots of people on different shipwrecks, and I met and two ladies that were involved in that. One I met and one I chatted to over the phone. This was the lady I chatted to over the phone. Her name was Barbara Anderson. Isn't that lovely? Don't you just love Edwardian photographs? And this is she'd signed this for me, picture of the Lusitania. Sorry, she was a Lusitania survivor. And for me, what was lovely about her was that she remembered it. She a bit like Eva Hart, she was young, but she could actually remember bits and pieces of it. So that was very exciting. So I love that. That's living history, isn't it? And then finally, not for any particular reason, but it's just a nice picture. This was the other lady that I met, called Audrey Pearl. And a bit like Melvina, she had been a baby on the Lusitania ship. It's a very, very sad story. She lost her brother, some of her siblings, younger siblings. And her nurse saved her. And I remember going to see her in Bedfordshire, I think she lived in. And she had this enormous painting on the wall. It was a farmhouse she lived in, a beautiful, big, old, sort of, I'd say Tudor farmhouse. And there was a big painting on the wall, and it was clearly, it was a young couple. And she said, oh yes, she said, that's me and my husband, because her husband was the Right Honourable Hugh Lawson Johnson. And I believe that they were both friends of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor in the 30s. Anyway, Yeah, she said, and behind this couple was this beautiful, enormous house. And she said, oh, yes, we've downsized. That was our first house. I think their oldest son lived in it. Anyway, that's a little trot through some of my Titanic and other bits and bobs. I hope you've enjoyed it. And happy Christmas to you all. And thank you again for all the support for Titanic Children. I've had so many lovely emails and comments and as I say, some people have even been coming up with lovely little bits that I can put into the book. Some of you have spotted mistakes in the book, which is great because that means when I do the next edition, I can correct those. But yeah, it's been such a positive and overwhelmingly enthusiastic response, which I'm very, very grateful for. So thank you, Jill Carlia, for giving me the 24th of December. And Merry Christmas to you all, Titanic book enthusiasts.